Hmm. Okay, this thing is acting up. Well, to live stream straight up and down, that seems like a bad idea. Hey, um, Shalom, USMC. Conio, hey, you guys. 13 of you already here. Awesome. Yeah, something's going wrong with my phone, though. So I'm about to see if I can correct that. Uh-huh. Happened last time, too. Shalom, Rick O'Connell. Been a while since I caught a live stream. John Ray, afternoon. Mark Catlin, shalom, shalom, shalom. Let me see if I can do it. Nope. All right. So, major problem here. Major problem here. Because I don't want to hold my phone in my hand. All right. Well. Oh, I know what I can do. All right. Hang on, y'all. I'll be right back. I'll give you something nice to look at. Here we go. See if I can make this work. All right. See, this is the tyranny of the phone, because you guys watch my this thing in the landscape, and now my phone is locked in portrait, which I didn't do. I didn't lock my phone in portrait. I absolutely don't want it in portrait. And when I try to turn it to rotate, it's like, nope, we're locked in portrait. So let's see if I can make this thing work. Hey, auto tilt in settings, right? But if I go there, then I think this, this live stream disappeared. I went back and I still couldn't do it. So I'm just going to try to see if I can get it to work. Need to set it on something. I keep moving it around, probably making y'all nauseous. Okay, if I do that, you can see me, but not well. So what I'll do is I'll scoot up in my chair. This way I also can attach a battery to my phone. So I will be limited to the amount of time I can dedicate to the live stream, which also does not make me happy. It's just the tyranny of the phone and the YouTube. There. Can y'all see me okay? See if I can. Shalom, Earl's daughter. I'm getting nauseous. I know. And you lost me, and I'm flinging you guys around. That's just not a great situation. Okay. This is going to have to do. Hey, there's Westhold Forge. Shalom. Alrighty then. So Pastor and I have been working daily. I'm soaking wet because I just took a bath. Yeah, Angie Kelly. Thank you. You can see me okay. And it was Stephen Wilson. Awesome. I've been squishing cabbage moth caterpillars off my Brussels sprouts plants with my own hands, and I must have seriously now killed hundreds in the last. Had deals with the oh good, loud and clear, excellent. With the ducks, we finally got a pond dug, and it rained for a little while, so the pond has got like a foot of water in it, but it really could hold probably 4 or 5 feet. And then our guineas, it's probably going to be their last day. They have been nothing but a pain in the rear end. Hey, Mrs. Pleasance, yay! Woke up late and saw me. ODP, shalom, shalom. I just tried a lifeboat ration for the first time. It's better than starting, but not much. Will the chickens eat them? Will the chickens eat these caterpillars? Maybe, but they'd have to like jump up on the Brussels sprout plant, and I've never seen that. I'm stopping Japanese beetles and caterpillars. Right. The Japanese beetles have been attacking my grape leaves, so when I see them, I squish them. We've had some aphids that were down at the orchard that freaked me out because I didn't know what they were. And so I was down there for several hours killing aphids by hand. because I take it very personally. I can spray, a pesticide or a neem oil or whatever, but in my experience, they don't work very well on these critters. Like I spray one day and 3 days later, they're all back. So in my mind, I'd rather just kill them all. At least the ones I'm killing, I know are not going to make more. Stomping, yes, absolutely. You should have fed those caterpillars to your chickens. I do feed them the tomato hornworms and the ducks. I did feed some to them. I guess I could pick them off and stick them in a cup or something. That is something I could try. I've always wondered what guinea fowl tastes like. Guinea fowl tastes like pheasant. I had to do the same thing on my cabbage, green little boogers. Exactly. Now, I've brought some cabbage heads in. This is the first year in like 3 years that I've actually had cabbage heads where they survived. I had 20 a couple of years ago, and I left them too long. The bugs just destroyed them. So this year, once there was a firm head, I brought it inside, and I've made sauerkraut twice. And I've also used the cabbage for coleslaw and fried it, like stir-fried it. Water with a little dish soap and a spray bottle works on aphids. Our biggest problem is hornworms. Yeah, the one plant, I think I pulled 10 hornworms off of it. And then I also had, and it was probably the hornworms, but it might have been something else. Something dig a hole into the tomato and then come through and out the other side. So that was really quite sad. But this year I might actually get some of my own tomatoes, which makes me so happy because I've had in the past to depend on my neighbor because mine never lived. Hey, Mad Kale, shalom, shalom. And who else? Bobby Mojo. Yes, Japanese beetles are attacking my pole beans. Now, I've heard for Japanese beetles, and I don't know if this is true, but I've read it online, that cardinals like to eat them. And cardinals like to eat sunflowers also. So if you put out the sunflower bird feed, it attracts the cardinals, and then supposedly they eat the Japanese beetles. I've also seen a homemade double milk jug Japanese beetle catcher. My mom actually made one, and it worked great. So, I haven't done that myself, but it is something that would work on the Japanese beetles. Tribal Lady, shalom. Tribal Lady, do you know Lynch Schley? Are you guys friends? Two ladies, some sort of, I picked peas for Ambria today. Our peas are done. The peas came in and they were really good, and Pastor and I picked a gallon bag and we nibbled them and I fried them and all that. And then the bugs just destroyed the plants. So they're done for a little while. How many did you get? Two ladies, Homesteader Hodge. Shalom, Crystal Campbell. My pole beans also. I'll have to try the sunflower seeds. And I've also noticed I have 6 cabbages. 4 survived. Just tonight made egg rolls with my cabbage and other veggies from the garden. Yummy. Yeah. Pastor would love it if I would make like dumplings. But that's pretty labor intensive. By the end of the day, I'm usually just wiped because of how sweaty I get and how hard I work. Did the picture at the beginning show up? I wanted to take a picture of this really attractive thing right here. See if you guys can see it. There we go. The no-nonsense pantyhose knee highs. I ordered about 30 of them because the grapes are now bigger than pea-sized. And bugs and things are starting to attack them. And so I have wrapped several bunches of grapes now with the knee highs. And then we have blackberries. I've made blackberry jam twice. And I'm thinking I probably am going to do the blackberry wine again. I'm on my second planting of peas. Just canned a bunch today from the first batch. Mrs. Pleasance, do you have any problems with bugs there attacking the peas? Or is it because it's cooler, maybe you don't have the same problems we do? Mrs. West asks, hello, Sister Kate. How are you doing? How is work? Because I know you were a little concerned about what was coming up for you. We are just starting first picking, so about a pint. Okay. Well, do you guys not have bugs there that attack your plants? Because we sure do here. I canned my second batch of mixed greens yesterday. Wow. I've never canned the greens. I just dehydrate them. What kind of greens did you have? When we earlier, you know, right at the end of winter, early spring, and we were eating the greens pretty much every day. We had spinach and mustard greens, Swiss chard, and turnip greens. And right now my turnip greens are under attack by the mold. I forget what they call it. It has a name, but it's a very common garden mold. And so most of the plants are infected with it, and I've been spraying them in an attempt to save the plant so the turnip will still grow. And then if that doesn't work and the tops die off, I will get the turnips out of the ground and probably replant, because turnips do pretty well here. Shalom, tribal lady. We're on Navajo Res. Husband in Navajo, and I'm Chickasaw. No, I don't know her. Is she in Alaska? She is in Arizona. But I figure if you're a tribal lady and she's a tribal lady, maybe you have something in common. Hello, Luna. I have a lettuce forest. Awesome. I must have planted lettuce 3 times this year, and only 2 of the plantings that I did had anything grow, and both of them were small. So we've been eating mostly wild lettuce. I'm not having a bug problem at all in northeast Oklahoma. How is that possible, RJ? Getting ready to use my pressure canner for the first time ever. Awesome, Angie Kelly. You are starting something that you will use your whole life. First, potatoes are awesome, and peas are flowering. We had some potatoes too. I had 4 red potatoes from a plant I planted in soil I thought was very potato friendly. And my chickens came and destroyed the plant. So I got 4. So I've replanted, but they haven't come up yet. Hi, Miss Wesson. My kale and arugula have been abundant this year. Awesome. My kale was doing pretty good, but the bugs are just tearing it up right now. Sooty mold, yes. It's a black mold on the plants. No, it's a white mold. This is a white mold. Whoop. And it's a pain in the tuchus. Lovely to see you, Sister Kate from Colorado. Hello, Noble Victory. I've never had luck with cabbage. Westhold Forge, I've planted it from scratch. I mean, you know, from seed, but this year I bought the plants and they're doing pretty well. I think all that rain that we had early on helped the heads form. I'm not saying they were huge. They were pretty small, probably softball size, but for me, I still love it. And something else I've noticed is if I cut the head off, but I leave the plant with the leaves, the outer leaves, it grows smaller heads on it. It looks just like a Brussels sprout almost. It grows like 3 little heads, and so I've been picking them too. Cabbage grows good here. Tribal lady, are you in Alaska? Don't plant in rows, mix the plants. Oh, I do. I don't plant in rows normally. Ducks are helpful with pests. They are. But right now I want my ducks down in my orchard. I don't mind them wandering around the garden, but I don't want them at this end of the property because I want them at the orchard so they can help the trees down there, the fruit trees. One of them's doing really bad. Adnir, shalom. 2 people from England now. We have a lot of grasshoppers and sadly larvae on everything. Yep, don't touch that. First time to ever have this sad problem. Yeah, larvae on everything. I'm telling you, I must have killed, yes, white mildew, Norman. I must have killed 500 cabbage moth caterpillars on my Brussels sprouts plants, and I have 6 plants. I'm not kidding. It's ridiculous. And I see the cabbage moths flying around. I knocked one out of the air today with my hat, but I really need to get more organized and get I have a net. I have a butterfly net that I bought for my grandsons. I should take it out there next time I go and just catch those stupid moths. I tried broccoli first time this year and it went straight to flower. Broccoli, sometimes it gets too hot, but if you keep cutting off the stalks, it keeps growing. Oh, that's right, Tribal Lady, you are up in Alaska. Okay, so are you having your long days now? Are you having those 20-hour days right now up in Alaska? This is Kate. Had great blackberries, bagworms on the cypress. We had bagworms here, and I tore the bags up and squished all the caterpillars, so they're not much of a problem right now. My peaches and pears have given me a bumper crop. I'm so excited. Something about little fish emulsion makes them happy. Oh, good. One of the trees gave good apples last year, and this year it's got really nice, healthy apples on it. But the tree itself had problems because goats scraped all the bark, ate all the bark, ringed it one year. So I did this thing that a lady in Ireland did a video on where you wrap peat moss in plastic wrap around it and tape it, and then you have to wait a year to see if the tree regrows the bark. Well, this tree did repair itself some, but there was also some tunneling in there from some kind of beetle. So the actual tree is not in great shape, and I rewrapped it, and I'm hoping it will survive enough that it can continue to grow. But it's a Fuji, and the apples look great. So I'm looking forward to that. Neem oil is working here. Oh yeah, and I got the netting in the mail, but my plants are so mature now, I don't feel like making anything. I put soft fruit in cages as well, homemade, cheap, and cheerful. Put my soft fruit in cages. Absolutely, you're having the long hours. Awesome. Good deal. White mildew on squash can be knocked by thinning the leaves and spray vinegar and water on the leaves. Yeah, vinegar and water would be good because it's acidic, right? It should kill the mold. That's a good idea. Yeah, goats have a way of doing that. Well, at least the dairy goats did. Present, you may start talking now. Hey, where did your better half go? I asked her a question. Get out of there. We're losing daylight now. Today's 19 hours and 23 minutes of daylight. Wow! I imagine that would be the time to get all your projects done, so when it's 4 hours of daylight, you can just chill. You did answer? You answered up top? It's going pretty fast for me. I didn't see it. I'm going to have to go all the way back and find that answer. Sawfly, not sadly. Okay, I saw that we have grasshoppers, Wes S. Mrs. Wes S. There's Aid saying hello. Mustards, kale, collard, turnip, beets, and arugula. They are pretty good. Well, good. Bobby Mojo, I have those things too. Work has come down this week. Finally, I didn't walk out last week, so that's a positive. Well, good. I'm glad. There. I'm glad I got to see that too. I didn't quit, right? It's always a good day when you didn't quit. Chill with chaga and mint tea. Exactly. Sawfly larva hit our garden. That's what Mrs. West said. Cabbage moth caterpillars are devastating my Brussels sprouts. I did get a few Brussels sprouts off though, which is good. Vinegar and water will also help get rid of caterpillars and white flies. It makes the leaves bitter to bugs. That makes sense, Lynn Schley. And you know, it's pretty inexpensive, and I'd rather do something like that than use a chemical, because, you know, we're going to hopefully eat what we're growing. Hello from Massachusetts. Luda Serg. That's an interesting name, Luda. Do you have a Russian family? Like, is there Russian in your background? Because I have a friend whose name is Luba. Are you doing a study tonight, Wes? Adnir wants to know. So, the reason I titled this thing Alrighty then, okay, yes, awesome. Okie Storm, Nian says hi too. Shalom, shalom. I saw the movie Skimmers, and we don't need no fully grown flying saws. What do you guys think the rest of the summer is going to be like? That's why I titled it Alrighty then, because if we were sitting down at a table and drinking a thing of tea, I would want to know what you think is going to happen in the next like 3 or 4 months. Mad Count says insane, right? Come on, Mad Count's not the only one with opinion. What else? Mrs. West S says going to get worse. Meteorologically hot and drought is building, right? And the drought was, I mean, it was bad here those 2 or 3 weeks it didn't rain. Northwest Arkansas Prepper, howdy! Shalom! I just asked the question, what do you think is going to happen in the next 3 to 4 months? Now, Mrs. West has said it's going to get worse, but I'd like to know what specifically you think is going to get worse. The economy, the protesting, the COVIDs, a lockdown. Garden Spices says a lockdown. An approaching famine, says Tribal Lady. Not sure. It's still really cool here in the Missouri Ozarks, so Luna's not worried. I'm hoping it's not going to be too hot and dry around here. Luna, how has your year been? Like, do you do gardening and stuff up there in Massachusetts? It's cold and wet here, but everything is on track. Well, Norm, you're in an area where it's going to be cold and wet. The coldest I've ever been in my life was in Scotland, and we had gone to Edinburgh and seen the sights there, which it was gorgeous. And then we went north of there to a town that starts with a D, and it sounded like Dundee, but I don't think it was Dundee, and it was kind of like out on the coast, and it was so cold. I think it was March. I wore every piece of clothing that I brought with me on that trip. All the pubs are open, so I'm waiting for a spike. Right? And isn't England having a spike right now? I mean, I think the UK and America are running neck and neck for like the most new cases or something. My brother-in-law is in Scotland, big country. You won't find it. The hotter the summer, the crazier the enemy will have them attack. Well, it's true. I feel that COVID cases will increase after last weekend. You mean like 4th of July parties and stuff, north of Arkansas proper? Yes, I helped my mother in her garden. It's been dry recently, but I don't complain about the rain. Right? Me too. But you probably don't live off grid. You probably are able to use your hose to water the garden. It's about 60 degrees here right now. That's about perfect. Our garden has been hit by every pest in the book so far, it seems. Wes, I'm telling you, the pests here are awful too. And so what I've decided I'm going to do, I already bought mosquito netting. And so what I'm going to do is, probably not this year, but next year when I plant the plants, I am going to make like bags for each plant and have some kind of tie at the bottom and just cover the plant so the moths and things that leave these larvae and caterpillars can't actually get to the plant. I'm going to try that. That's going to be my goal. Yes, okay, so you can. There were crazy large groups getting together last weekend. We had our first local virus death yesterday. He was a prison guard and caught it at work. I'm from Florida, and I don't like the heat, right? I mean, you went to a good place. It usually doesn't get too hot there in England. Lockdowns are going to be implemented in a lot more cities and towns. I think you're right, Lynch. Like, because of the spike, I think your local, like your mayors and stuff like that, they're going to have to lock down because the cases will continue to grow if people keep mingling. According to the news, still have only had one case. Luna, good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. We have bugs on our tomato plants that diatomaceous earth would not kill. Yeeves a Torquest. I know, right? I've heard diatomaceous earth is one of those things people use, but I have not found it to be that effective, at least against bugs. Now, as a fertilizer and for the plants to be healthy, that's good. I think, oh, wait a minute, Earl's daughter, whoa. Low tunnels with the netting is supposed to be pretty effective. I think blue unicorn aliens will bring a cure for the disease, and then an ice cream tsunami will kill us all. At least that's what my niece told me in her dream. Sounds feasible at this point. Yeah, I think the blue aliens thing would make a lot of people actually pretty happy. They probably think they were bringing superior technology down or something. You have to excuse me. I'm out on my porch and the flies are outrageous. I'm defending myself at the same time I'm talking. Second panic buying spree is coming. I think that's true. We're going to be stuck in Texas for a lot longer than we had hoped. Well, did that thing not work out for you guys? I was kind of hoping it would. Northwest Arkansas prepper, I agree too. Let me see. At least we get ice cream. Hey, Farm Ma, she's a lady. Death by ice cream tsunami sounds pretty good right now, right? Especially as how hot it is. Farm Ma is a lady on Instagram who does homesteading stuff up in Canada. And she posted a recipe for making ice cream at home that I've tried now a couple times, and it works. Simple ingredients. heavy whipping cream, whipped, and a can of sweetened condensed milk. After you've whipped the cream, you fold it into the sweetened condensed milk, and then you freeze it. And it works really good. It makes a decent ice cream, and you can flavor it if you want. Okay. Do you use a filtration system for your water? We do not. Such as a Berkey or something similar. We do not. We have a well, and we drink that well water. Wild lettuce plant is over 6 feet tall and flowering. Mine too. Oklahoma will not be locked down. Okay. I'm still in my first panic buying spree. Backups for my backups. We're working on it. It's been in the 90s and no rain. Bugs are bad here too. We're having a brownout. Oh, I hate that. No one likes a drought. Come on, nobody likes a drought. Except people who have to mow their lawn all the time. They get a break from having to mow. But as far as like, trying to get your garden to grow and stuff in a drought, it's pretty devastating. Like I planted so many things during our droughty time here and none of it came up. And it was kind of like, wow, I was looking forward to, whatever I planted. Well, I can't say that's right near the end of it. I planted some cucumbers, some carrots, and some parsley, and they all came up. So I ought to be happy about that. Especially the cucumbers, the only ones I planted that came up. The Back to Eden garden method is working pretty good though, as far as, we're dependent on the rain here for the garden getting watered. And like the peas did come up. The tomatoes are doing fine. So that did help, the fact that we mulched. Add baking cocoa for chocolate ice cream. It's good. I've also tried putting chocolate chips in it, and that was good. And I put some peach in one of the helpies I made, and that was good. In Michigan. Oh my gosh, Jess, that's kind of weird from Michigan. Okay. Wasn't China Mart this afternoon. Out of weird stuff. Plenty of food, but no bathroom cleaner, camo clothes, socks, or greeting cards. That is weird. Hoof fungus that you can find on birch. If you light it up on the stick and just let it smoke, it will deter mosquitoes. I've heard that about another, looks like a shelf. I think they call it shelf fungus or something like that. It's probably the same thing. Spinach, lettuce, watermelon, all did very well in Southeast Texas. Cucumbers and squash, not so much. Move to Scotland. Plenty of rain there. Shelves are empty in spots in mire. I keep buying canned beans when I can find the no salt ones and keep adding it to my stock. Wow. Who else is from the UK here? I can't read as fast as the feed. Shalom, sheepdog patriot. We have summer. It's when the rain is warmer. If you breathe the smoke from the horse's hoof fungus, you won't smoke for long. Ugh. Is the smoke not good for breathing in? Just killing mosquitoes? If it does not rain in Scotland tomorrow, it's a drought. It's a drought. And Hawaii, baked beans on vanilla ice cream, not bad. I was not pregnant. And I think the Koreans eat corn on ice cream. Well, it kills mosquitoes. I would love to visit Scotland. My dad's whole family's Scottish. Where are the ridgebacks? There's one right here. Come here. Come here, Zot. Here he is. He's looking a little sheepish. What are you doing? Oh, you big goober. Yeah, he hated the fireworks. Hated it. Was trying to hide, was trying to climb in my lap. It was awful. I love those dogs. Well, they're okay. Hey, EE. Don't forget to give me a thing up. A thumbs up. Shalom. I love this. Okay. I had a buddy in Bremerton ask what they do in the summer. He said if it happens on the weekend, they have a picnic. My mother was born in Scotland. Yeah, suppose I have some Scottish in my background too. From last name Collier. I guess that means like a coal miner. See, but now if I pet him, he's going to sit here like a big goob and like push my hand so I keep petting him. And now I can't pay as good attention to the flies. Okay, so good evening, Christine Taylor. Okay. Hot 82 in the Adirondacks. That is pretty warm, actually. So, you guys think things are going to get worse. There's going to be more shortages. What do you think is going to happen with Black Lives Matter? Because I don't think those people are done, but I don't know what their end game is. Like, what exactly? Okay, they protested. Got it. They want more fairness, you know, whatever. Got it. What's their end game? Right? As a culture, what do you think they want to happen? Because, I mean, if they just want to, like, normalize and move out to the suburbs, okay, I don't have a problem with that. Do you think they want to withdraw totally? I mean, that one group down in Georgia caused a big stink because they were armed and they say they want to, like, take over Texas or something, but that doesn't sound like a realistic goal to me. Civil War? You think they're going to militarize? But Civil War doesn't really make sense for them because they're not that much of the population, and it's not going to do them any good. Like, the national military is going to have to step in if they start anything, and nobody can stand up to our military right now. Have you gone on their website and read what they are all about? I have not. Endgame is to beat Trump. At least the controllers. They want revenge and money. Beating Trump. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. They want to beat Trump and get Joe Biden elected, so then the Democratic stuff. It is a judgment in time. Okay. Had a BLM protest near me. 3 folks turned up. Exactly, Norm. Like, once an all-black state. Okay, so, Madkel, fine. I mean, on one hand, I think if you want something like that, just go to Africa. The whole continent is basically, you know, it's a whole continent. They can move anywhere they want there, and there'll be, you know, a majority of black people if that's all they want. But I don't think they do. I don't think American blacks want to go to Africa. I want to tear down the U.S. as we know it. So, leader has a very low IQ. Well, that's too bad. BLM has been subverted by the communists. Have you watched any videos by former KGB agent Yuri Bezmenov? No, but I know something about communism. Kanye West announced on Twitter he's running for president. Eye roll. You know, I don't even know. Because he and Trump get along. So, you know, if he runs, is he going to run as a Republican or an independent? You know, is he going to challenge Trump for the Republican nomination? They already have a couple of cities, Chicago and LA. And if they make, let's just pretend that, and if you know someone's website or whatever, if the way America runs falls, what do they think is going to take its place? Like, we have the strongest economy, the best military. I don't know that we have the best standard of living, but our standard of living is really high. We have great medical care. Some places are going to the 4-day work week. I mean, what do they think to replace it with? Because I'll tell you right now, anarchy is not the answer. Even though, you know, when I was a young punk, I thought, you know, anarchy in the UK, blah, blah, blah. But that's really not a viable form of government. L. Croc. Hi, Sister Kate. Beyond Anti-Extinction Rebellion are part of the same sponsor. Subversive change. Liberia was purchased and formed as a nation for freed slaves. Yes, it was, Suzanne. And I did a study on Liberia. And 10 years ago, Liberia was having an awful civil war, and people were cannibals. They were chopping other people's arms off and eating them. It was completely out of control. And then in the last election, there was some very famous soccer player running, and I think he got elected maybe as prime minister. And so I don't know what's happening in Liberia now. But I mean, just pick a country. You can go now. The U.S. noise and the interviews he gave, everything said what happened to the U.S. is now happening. Ooh. They are Marxists and want a Marxist state. Okay, go to Cuba. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to stay here. But you will not get a Marxist state. We are United States, not do whatever you want in your state. We have laws here. Just a way to divide people, to get us focused on hating each other, so don't focus on how the handlers are stealing us blind and forging more chains. No more idiot and B and L and M in the chat. Please check out his vids. Blackpool, Mrs. Pleasance. Blackpool's north? Is that right? No? I will not approve the comments. Flexing your moderator. Your moderator powers west. They are a distraction. My question is what the other hand is up to. Who hate the traditional nuclear family. If their advice is any more young black men will be raised without a father. J. Mary L.A. Stone. Is that right? Spot on, Mr. Mark. On topic. Firmly believe we're being slow walked to L.A.W. Okay, what did Mad Kilt say? East Anglia and homesteading. Nice. YouTube will flag your chat if they keep being ugly. I've had to approve 3 comments so far. Yeah, there's no reason for us to get ugly. I'm not asking for, people to get angry and just make up stuff. I'm talking about factual stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they're going to be successful. So I'm not that concerned about them. I was just interested in what they wanted to do. Because, I mean, if you're a 21st century person of color in America, our economy before the pandemic hit was off the chain. It was wonderful. And so, like, if you wanted to open your own business or if you wanted to get yourself a degree and, let's pretend you get a law degree, you want to be a lawyer, it was a perfect time to open your own law office or whatever. Or do they want to, like I said, do they want to move to the suburbs and just hang out with all the other suburbanites? Or do they want to become neo-pioneers like we're doing? BLM would do poorly in Africa. Yeah, they probably would, and that's probably why they don't want to go. I mean, and do not get me wrong. I'm not saying people are not welcome here. If you're an American, if you're an American, like, life is pretty good. You can't even sarcastically quote communist leaders in a chat. Keith Cronk, what's up, mate? 100 degrees, humidity 68%. Great farmland over your way, Mrs. Pleasance. Family values and work ethics matter. Right. Like, if you don't like America, fine. There's 180 some other countries that you're more than welcome to go to. And there's all sorts of different forms of government. There's still kings. There's prime ministers. There's communist regimes. You can go to North Korea. You can go to China. You can go and live under Putin. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to stay here. And if you're affluent enough, like Tyler Perry, and I know people say you can't just use one example. And I'm not saying everybody in BLM is Tyler Perry. But my point in using him is that he you know, he did his own style of comedy and playwriting and videos, and he's made a bunch of money, and he just bought some huge plot of land somewhere in like Georgia or South Carolina and opened his own movie making company. So, freedom, if you know what I'm saying. Fajaling, hey, shalom. Some wonderful video where a young lady who was actually from Africa was yelling at the protesters and telling them they have no idea how easy they have it here in the U.S. She shut them up, right? I mean, you should have an end game. If you're not happy and you want some change, you should already in your mind think of what the change should be. Because just protesting, you'll be a flash in the pan, and then until the next protesters show up, and then no one will remember what you did. Who remembers the Million Mom March? Nobody. You know what I'm saying? We'll do to POC. What's POC? They want everything handed to them on a silver platter. They want everything without working for it. Well, basically, people can do that now. If you get on welfare and have a kid out of wedlock, you get a check. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The demands on their website are oxymoronic. They are unrealistic and non-compatible with our Constitution. We can't negotiate with insanity. They're hired Marxists paid to distraction and destruction. Right? And so to me, they're not going to get anywhere. That just sounds like a recipe for, you had a moment, you did millions of dollars worth of damage, you made a lot of people really angry, and I know there have been some laws changed. I know there have been some social things that are different. My daughter was going through, like, Colorado just, you know, did a no-choke thing with their police departments and stuff like that. And I do think the police departments in general, unless you're like in a really high drug area, should unmilitarize. They've been militarized by the war on drugs. And, you know, how they have the MRAPs and all that other stuff. Well, you may need that in Chicago, but you don't need that in, you know, a little town in rural Indiana. You need somebody like Andy Griffith in a little town out in the middle of nowhere who, you know, knows everybody and talks to everybody and tries to help people's families, and, you know, a more community mind police force. I do think, and Pastor and I said that when the war on drugs happened, we were like, it's going to wind up bad. The economy was doing good. Things are looking up for everyone, so they needed to be destroyed. That's a good thing. 5 kids to find. I believe the overall endgame is a version of 1984, an obedient, mindless society. Well, I hope not, but it's possible. Bobby, you are spot on. Here's the Sasquatch. Shalom. Have to go, Sister K. No, shalom and blessings. All right. Thanks for dropping by, Mad Kelt. Be safe. Their endgame is more sinister than most imagine. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Africa. Not good. Right. It's not an alternative. I mean, it really isn't. It just, that's like someone saying to me, go back to Ireland or Scotland. I mean, I'd enjoy it, but as an American, I would still stick out there. So it's not really separate from BLM, but I do not believe that for a second. Too many POC speak against BLM, and most supporters are whites. I agree with demilitarization of police, but we need police. Right, we need, because it's not so much that we need police per se. It's because our system is based on laws. And so in order to enforce laws, you need somebody, right? And in England, it used to be bailiffs and sheriffs. And they, you know, it was a different kind of position. Ours are you know, what am I trying to say? Like a bailiff was just somebody in your community. They were not a bailiff only. They were like a farmer who was also a bailiff. And when something came up, then he puts on his bailiff hat. Where, you know, with our police, that's their job, that's their career, that's everything. And so it's you know, and we're a big country. We're a much bigger country. But yeah, we need somebody to enforce our laws. And the reason we have laws is because laws make things orderly. I love these lively. Thank you for having them, Sister Kate. And, bless you. Okay, Yves, thanks for swinging by. Is it's possible illegitimate child of Antifa and BLM? It could also, I mean, come on. American blacks have had protests and organizations since, civil rights was passed. And so have whites. I'm not trying to say it's only them. There's been the Knights of Columbus and the Lions and all sorts of things like that. It's actually a very kind of 18th century, early 19th century social mechanism. Laws are for the lawless. Excuse me. Like ladies' garden societies and stuff were social. So, but things like, the Black Panthers and just whatever community organizer thing Barack Obama was into, I don't have any problem with that per se. It's just part of being in a big society. But I do have a problem when they say things like they're going to take over Texas, because Texas is one of our biggest states, and there's no way Texas is going to say, yeah, come on down, take us over. We don't want to do our own thing. No. It doesn't seem very realistic. If the criminals demilitarize, so can the police. Gangbangers have fully automatic weapons and RPGs. But fully automatic weapons are not legal in the United States. So where are they getting them? Who is supplying our criminals with these illegal firearms? And gangbangers are not in every city in the United States. There are areas where they are more serious, but a lot of little towns don't have them. Glad to hear many prayers sent for y'all later. Morning people, Shrek. From the woods of Pennsylvania. Do you guys have chicks and tiggers up there? What am I trying to say? Chiggers and ticks up there. Jeez. They can't have Texas. They can have New Mexico if they want it, right? New Mexico's friendly. An arms dealer in any city. Right, but where are they getting them, Keith? They're illegal. Fully auto weapons are legal in the U.S. You need to get the right licenses, and you have to pay a lot of money. Those weapons are expensive, and the licenses are expensive. So if they're criminals, you think they got a permit? They have ticks. New Mexico for reparations. You guys are silly. I mean, if you're going to talk about reparations, who's supposed to pay that? The people who propagated slavery in our country have been dead 200 years. There's no one here. I didn't make that up, Fajaling. Other people have used that too. If you know what you're doing, you can make a semi-auto AR into an auto very easily. And can we not talk about that on my channel? Wes, can you strike that off there, please? I don't want to talk about that kind of thing because that's illegal. And I'm not about that at all. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah. Let's not talk about that kind of stuff here. Arms come over the border, right? Fast and Furious is a movie, not reality. Slavery is still going on. That should be the focus. It sure is, but it's not going on here. I guarantee you, unless you want to talk about, say, human trafficking or something like that. But just, as a acceptable societal practice, it is not okay here in America and hasn't been for, since 1865. But in Arabian states, in places like Qatar and Saudi Arabia and stuff, that stuff still goes on. Places in Africa, people are sold to be a slave to someone else. My family were abolitionists, so I'm exempt. Well, I'm exempt too, because my family didn't get here till the 1900s. Well, that's not true. I did have a British relative here during the Civil War. But I think he fought for the 1st Alabama Infantry and Cavalry. So he was on the wrong side. But who knows if he actually was a slave owner. Going to unload New Mexico on them and no more welfare. Hello, Social Kate Sugar Creek Homestead. So I don't see them going anywhere. Maybe they'll have some political say and get some laws changed in their area, you know, wherever they're strongest. But I also saw, I think on Twitter, where some congressman is trying to pass a law so that the mayors of the cities where these protests happen have to pay for all the damage to the private businesses and homes that the rioters damaged. Lived in the ghetto, and crates of guns and drugs will show up by railroad tracks, so I'll let you guess where the guns come from. Dark Officer murdered 4 years ago. I'm a son of the revolution. I'm screwed. Michigan Norse prepper. Some good people and Wes. Brother C103, you sass. My dad's family came to America in the 1640s. Poor as we are, no way did my ancestors have money to own anyone. Just saying. Yeah, I think that's probably true of my family too. Like, we were not rich people. We certainly were not. Who let Mark in here? You guys. So what else do you think is going to happen? We talked about food shortages. What about this second wave in the COVID? What do you guys think about that? I've already made my opinions known. What about the families with loved ones in nursing homes where they placed corona patients? Right? Daughter of the Revolution. Morning, Social Kate. Western Australia, still virus-free. Victoria, however, on the other side of the country, is having the second wave. Well, Bogan, I'm glad you're virus-free. As far as I know, we are still here. Some assert there's evidence for the bug being bioengineered. What chance any second wave will be a new bug that they pretend is the same? C103 was timed out for 300 seconds by Wes. Hey now, you're supposed to enact my will, not your own. Looks hot there, says have the garden doing. It's doing okay. I already talked about that earlier. I'm fighting cabbage moths on my Brussels sprouts, but I did get Brussels sprouts off and we ate it. My turnip greens are moldy, and I'm treating them for that. I've got some cucumbers growing and some tomatoes growing, and I'm happy. I think protein will, look at this fly right in the middle of my head. I think protein will become harder to get, especially dairy. I think so too. New way to lock everyone down and get rid of small businesses. I see why people say that. I do, because it's really hard to continue a business if you're not actually making money. I'm just wondering if they could, you know, like in your local area, just kind of halt everything. Just say, like, you don't owe your taxes until this thing's over. You don't owe your rent until this thing's over. But I don't know how that's going to work. That's not what Pastor and I are doing. We are doing for ourselves, and we're prepared to, be completely self-sufficient if we have to. So I'm not a business person. Second wave. The virus is real. The economy was going to crash anyway. I don't think it was. The economy was the strongest it had been in years right before this pandemic happened. I don't think you can get rid of small farms, at least not little, like ours, because we're not trying to sell anything. I didn't really do it, Ada. I was just joking. I think it will get crazier and crazier. I am prepping for the eventuality within my ability and sitting back and watching the show and praying. The virus is real, but it's not as bad as the Gov wants you to believe it is. New South Wales have shut their border with Victoria for the first time since the Spanish flu. Well, Bogan, thank you. I have been saying since day one, you have to look at the Spanish flu as a model for what's happening now, because that's the last great big pandemic. And FedGov, I think FedGov is kind of floundering on the numbers thing because the amount of people in America who died during the Spanish flu was 675,000. Now, the total population at that time was 103 million. 103 million. So 675,000 was not a huge part of our population. But worldwide, 50 million people died. So that's where your big numbers come from. They didn't come from America. We did not have 50 million people die in this country. So now we have 330 million people here. So it's approximately 3 times as many people in 100 years as we had then. And we are at 130, almost 3 million people infected and 1 million people recovered. So if you think about it, if you multiply the 132,000 by 4, that should make about 2 years long. That's how long the Spanish flu lasted. 4 times 132,000 is about 800,000 dead people in America. Those numbers are not as huge. Like I said, if there was a 6% death rate, then it would be 3.3 million people dead here in the United States. But I don't think we're at a 6% death rate overall, right? So if we only have 800,000 people dead and this thing burns out in 2 years like the Spanish flu, then we basically have done a parallel to what the Spanish flu did here. We have 3 times as much population. We would have 4 times the death rate. So we're almost even, right? We're 1 point off if you just kind of compare. And that was a pandemic, but I don't know if it'll go to 50 million people dead worldwide. Right now, it's 10 million people worldwide dead, and that's our first quarter. So if you multiply that times 4, in 2 years, 40 million people could be dead around the world. That is basically what the Spanish flu did. So if they did a mass forgive of rent and debt, it would run all the way back up to the top of the food chain, never going to happen. Well, and I mean, again, I don't know economies. Like if I had someone who I expected to pay rent, if I already own the building and that's just profit for me, I'd be willing to cut that profit because we're in a special time. But that's me. 1,000 folks in the UK and 2,000 in Africa have now had trial vaccination, which is an RNA vax. It can modify DNA permanently. My question is, can the vax be contagious to non-vaxxed? Time to build an ark. First of all, I have not heard of anybody trying a vaccine yet. Can a vax be contagious? I have no idea. The whole point of a vaccine is to stop a disease of some kind. The 2 women who started BLM, in their own words, trained Marxists. Okay, so they want communism. That's not going to work here either. Communism is an ineffective system, and the rich people here who like being rich are not going to let that happen. Economy has been unstable. A reset is what the UN wants. They are purpose food shortages, and that will lead to hunger and sadly death. Many will die worldwide. Well, I hope that's not true. But I don't think our economy has been unstable. Our economy has grown, has shown steady growth since at least the 50s. Like we had a recession, but you look at the numbers, like the stock market and how many unemployed there were right before this thing happened. It was like the smallest amount ever. I've never really felt like our economy was in trouble because the rich people who make money here don't want it to fail. Trials underway at the Oxford for vaccination. I'm a retired clinical researcher. Cannot post links here, but yes. You cannot get sick from a vaccinated person. I wouldn't think so. Use wisdom, the virus. Beef up your diet and exercise for immune system improvement, limit your exposure. Exactly. And yes, the vaccine is in human trials now in the UK. Okay. It's about the debt, not the economy. So I agree. Excuse me. I agree to a certain extent because we should not be in debt. America was not designed the way our government was set up. It was not designed for our country to be in debt to any bank. And the Federal Reserve is not federal, and it's not a bank. It's a privately owned corporation, and they are not supposed to be printing our money. Our Congress is supposed to be printing our money. But that can be erased with a pen signature. If you nationalize the debt, it basically disappears. But there are people making money off the debt, and they don't want that to change. They want to keep milking this cow. So they're not going to let our economy fail because they want their money. The virus the virus is a blood disease, causes clots, no herd immunity, no cure. Military will not let people who have tested positive, even in past, enlist. Not good. Virus is a blood disease. It's not a blood disease. It's a respiratory disease. Email me links to real papers. I don't see the crisis everyone else sees, especially when 8 to 9 million die from cancer each year in the U.S. and 1 out of 35 kids have autism. Our priorities are all messed up. The transmissibility is the problem with the virus. It is very easily transmitted. We've gone from no cases to 3 million cases in 6 months. And that 3 million that's more than motor vehicle crashes a year. There's about 300,000. It's more than flu every year, even though people say, oh, it's no worse than the flu. Flu is 30 to 60,000 cases on average a year. Cancer is an epidemic in our country for sure, but the potential for this to be more is where people should start to panic. It's easily transmitted, and it's very serious. Remember, I was talking about the guy who used to work on Broadway, and he was 41. I thought he was in his 30s. 41, very healthy, catches this thing in the hospital, 95 days. All his systems shut down. They're intubating him, they're putting him in a medical coma, his lungs are collapsing, his kidneys quit, and they amputated one of his legs because his circulation was poor, and he passed away, I think yesterday, 41 years old. So it's also can be a very serious thing. It was not designed for taxation either, but here we are. It's about power and control. And it always is. I don't know why people are that way. I really don't. I don't know why there are people who want to have that power. Probably because we're in a system where you cannot escape, and so they want to make the most of their time here in total control and luxury. That's my guess. Up in the air on if respiratory only or if it can manifest in the blood. Doctors on both sides of the argument. It affects your lungs. I've just sent you a link about some trials, but it's not started yet and nowhere near 1,000. We all knew about the trials, but still in the lab. They're not clinical. It's a God complex. Actually, COVID affects the blood, causing clots that lodge in the respiratory system. Cause it high. Peer reviewed. Okay. Hey, David Campbell, shalom. Controllers serve the adversary. Well, they do. I look at it this way. It doesn't matter if you're, the Prime Minister of England. You have to eat every day. You have to go to the bathroom. You have to go to sleep. You have to put on clothes. You know what I mean? We are in a limited universe. And so you can only go so far. You can go into space, sure, but you're not going to go to the end of space. You're only going to be able to go to space where it's close enough that we can survive up there. You know what I'm saying? Oh, David and Michelle Vance, shalom. Yes, mate, that's what it said in the link. Shalom, bitty boo. And the ventilators make it worse, they are saying now. I've heard that. But there's again, we have to wait and see, because for some people the ventilator helps. That Scottish pilot who was in Vietnam, they put in a medical coma and on a ventilator for 91 days, and then he recovered. So I don't know. It bonds to the DNA of the host, and who knows where SARS-2 will attack. It usually goes for the lungs, right? My son is in the Army Reserve. They have canceled drills for 3 months. They won't let our reserves train until there is a vaccine. Right? Because here's the thing. If our military goes down from this pandemic, then we are vulnerable and someone can attack our country. If you can't get infected from a vaccinated person, then why do they ask you all these questions when you get a vaccine? Not sure what you're talking about, Mary. Not sure what questions you're talking about. So can we all agree that we still, whether we think COVID is serious or not, it's still affecting our daily lives right now, and it may do so until next fall. Not this one upcoming, but the one after that, because I think as a virus, it could extend out that long. That's what the Spanish flu did, 2 years. Biddy is Bluetooth, killing all that speed reading. Biddy, you gotta get in there and read and get rid of, definitely. True that. You got to get rid of unacceptable comments. Wes has had to flying fickle fingers of fate kind of thing going on. For data collection. Okay. I'm taking a break. They ask questions like, are you living with an immune compromised person? I'm sure it is data collection, and it's also to make sure that, like if the vaccine if it had side effects or something, that it would not cause you to, I don't know, have some sort of negative effect on the people around you. I mean, I know what you're saying. Like, I don't think it makes you sick that way. It may be data collection on just who you are and why you would want a vaccine. Shalom, Teresa. Anecdotal maybe, wife is a carer. Every year the old folks get a flu jab. They cough into her face and both get it. Regular as clockwork. Well, and right, the flu is fairly easily passed too, especially if you're getting coughed on. Thing about viruses, because it mutates, they cannot always get a vaccine that is going to match up with the flu that is, spiking at the time. If it goes another year, that's going to be bad. Sugar Cake, what do you think will happen if it goes another year? We will be in high alert until we have a new president, so look for it to be here 4 more years. It may be here. Someone else said, like, the flu's been around forever. COVID could be around forever, which I hope it isn't. I mean, ugh. Whole country is going to lose if college football gets canceled, right? There'll be riots in the streets. They have a plan in Michigan to restart the schools. I don't think parents will let their kids attend. I wouldn't. I think it's way too soon. They still don't know what this virus is going to do over a long term. I would absolutely not send my kids back to school. Right, it changes. Why vaccinate, Mrs. West S? Because a vaccine is supposed to stimulate your antibodies so you don't catch it. And for people who have, like, smoking issues and asthma issues and now blood clotting disorders, if we can get your immune system strong enough that it won't catch it by giving you the vaccine, then hopefully it saves your life. But it's a risk, right? It's a risk with the flu because of the mutating. And I watched on a video, some guy in California was like, we're really sure ours is going to work. I hope it does work. Keeping Katie Bug home. I would keep Katie Bug home, especially if cases get bigger in your area. If you're in a place where you don't have any cases, it maybe not so much. But if you're in an area where there are cases, then I would definitely not send my kids to school. I don't doubt that severity. I question our response. Not long ago, people were dying from polio, TB, smallpox, and a whole lot of diseases, and the world never stopped. Are we afraid of dying or living? The thing about stuff like tuberculosis and polio and all of that is it actually affected the populace more than we remember. Tuberculosis killed a lot of people, and what happened was society started putting those people with tuberculosis in hospitals just for them because they weren't going to survive. They would die in those sanatoriums, and that and having a vaccine is what put an end to that disease. But I mean, there's plays. Carmen is an opera, and it was based on a book about a famous courtesan who had tuberculosis. Scarlett O'Hara, the actress, Vivian Lee, died of tuberculosis. And tuberculosis, you're not even really cured of it, I don't think. It's a bacterium, and all you're doing is containing it. You actually have it your whole life. And so before antibiotics came around and were used to treat it, you were going to die of it. And we all got vaccinated. Do you remember getting vaccinated for polio? Because I got vaccinated for that in school. Things like yellow fever and mosquito-borne diseases. There were huge, what am I trying to say? When I was a little kid, the city would have trucks spray chemicals in all over the town to kill mosquitoes so that malaria wouldn't spread. I mean, it can affect you very much if this stuff gets out of hand. My question is on a mask. I know 2 docs personally, and they don't agree with each other. I know. There's enough stuff online that it's like people say, oh, it's CO2 and it's dangerous and you're going to whatever. Well, surgeons wear masks when they operate, right? Why do they do that? So they don't get their bacteria into the wound of the person that they're working on. So to me, I think masks must have some kind of protective value. And so I wear them when I'm out in public. But I also use that hand sanitizer like it's going out of style. COVID is not as bad as the Fed Gov wants everyone to believe. It has been proven that case numbers have been inflated. Death numbers have been inflated in New York and New Jersey and other large cities. Well, it's not just about America and our numbers. It's around the world. So I don't know. About TB is a Sanford and Son episode. Do yourself a favor and research TB. I read a Smithsonian article on TB and it floored me because I thought TB was like smallpox, like we had eradicated it. No, it's still around in countries like Korea, and then it started popping up in the poorer populations, like amongst drug addicts, and they would not carry through the treatment, and so it was being spread. We're not going to get the vaccine, questionable ingredient. And that's everyone's right. I don't think it's ever going to be a mandatory thing. I really don't. I think it's going to be optional. I think if you get tested, they may require everyone to have a test just to see if you have antibiotics or not. But I don't know that they can force you to take it. Got to look at the death rate. It's a lot better than what the news has said. 1.1 million people die every year of TB. See, I mean, TB has not been eradicated because it's impossible. Once you get it, you cannot kill it in your body. You can only contain it. And so you have to take treatment. And as soon as your immune system, like as you get older, gets weaker, it will break out. Would it be okay for me to call you after the live? Would it be easier if you just texted? It would be easier for me if you texted, because after I talk this long, my voice is really tired and I've got to cook dinner. Research Dr. Mary's monkey. Polio vaccine spread cancer in the 50s and 60s. CM, I've read that book. Now, I know all about that. And I think there's a certain amount of common sense to the fact that the monkeys were not naturally together. And so if you put their kidneys and their blood together, it creates cancer. I think that's plausible. I'm not 100% sure that the person who wrote that, it was all fact. But it may have been, right? It's a very interesting book to read. And what it did for me was you have to think about a vaccine when it's developed. You can't just take the germs from, that person over there and put them on a slide and stick it in a needle and put it in me. That's not how vaccines work. You have to have a medium. And sometimes it's an egg yolk, and sometimes it's, monkey's kidney tissue or whatever, rabbit eyeballs, where that virus can grow. And then you have to do experiments on the virus in that medium to see if you can kill it. So let's just pretend we're going to make a COVID thing, and we've got, egg yolks, and we inject them with the COVID, and then we inject bleach in there, and the bleach kills it. Well, yay. You can't inject bleach into a human body, right? You've got to come up with something that you can multiply enough for you to experiment on it. And then the vaccination has to be something that the human body can stand and yet still kill the thing you're trying to kill. And so that's why there's all this research and there's all these trials and everything else, because you can't just, joke, inject bleach into a person. You know what I'm saying? Like the vaccine has to be able to kill the thing you want to kill and also be okay in a human body. And it's not easy. I'm not going to talk about that, Mary LA. I am in the Ozarks, but we're not going to talk about that kind of thing. All right. I'm trying to read what you guys. PTB are trying to control us and bring down the UN. And so, don't drop. So who's PTB? Oh, come on. They were just premature with the Tide Pod Challenge. Never bleach your red blood cells. I won't be tested and I won't take the vaccine. I'm 67 years old today. I've never worn a mask. I took the flu vax for a year. Every time I got a shot, I got sick. When I stopped taking it, I stopped getting. Right. I mean, RJ, I'm not. Each one of us has to decide for ourselves our risk. We have to look at these vaccines when they come out and see how effective they are and whether there's something we would even consider doing. I have not taken a flu vaccine forever either, but my mom did for many years. And she, I overheard a conversation where a man said in his family, 2 young people, like I think he was a grandpa, and so his son and like his son's son, or I can't remember now exactly the family member, but 2 people in his family took a flu vaccine that was a nose spray, and it made them go blind. And he was in like a coffee place talking to his friends, and I just happened to overhear the conversation. I said, wow. And I'm sure it had something to do with them and the reaction to the vaccination. But my answer to this whole thing is quarantining. It really is. Just stay away from people. I don't have a problem staying away from people for 2 whole years. And I'm older myself. But the vaccine's too up in the air. It's too new. We're not going to know side effects and everything. All right, let me see what Biddy said. Oh, I can't go back. I guess I could. All right, let me go this way. Gotta run. Thanks, HK. You're welcome, Mark. Yes, I'm thankful for my O positive blood. Like, what did I do now? Heck, I was getting dinner out of the oven. I have no idea, Biddy Boo. I think they want to keep polls closed. Go to the mail, which is not trusted. I'm A positive. Quarantine was the biblical answer, right? I mean, we have our example in Leviticus where it talks about if someone was sick, they left the camp. You kept them outside the camp for like a week or 2 weeks, and then a priest went out and checked them, and if they were still sick or had the pox or whatever, they had to stay outside the camp for another week or two. Exactly. The virus needs a host. If you're too far away to be the host, it can't hop, and so it's going to stop with that person who's over there. They either die of it or they recover from it or whatever, but if they come in contact with nobody else, the virus stops right there. That's right. I'm staying home as much as humanly possible and just staying away from people. That's right. 7 days. But if it's safer to stay away, I got no problem with that either. Exactly. I don't have a problem with others quarantining, but I'm not going to be forced to quarantine myself. No one's forcing you, RJ. It's a personal choice. I'm a terrible host. I never offer beverages or snacks or anything. Me too. I always forget. I'm so excited to see people, I forget. Shame on me. Look at this fly. Still in the middle of my forehead. EMT in my street said they have been told it's airborne now. McMikey, that's been around for a while. They've been talking about that airborne thing since it came out of China. And I think it probably is. I mean, the regular flu is. So why wouldn't this be? I self-isolate. There you go, Lynn. The government is trying to force us to quarantine. No, FedGov is not trying to force anybody to quarantine. The president has given, he hasn't given because the power is not his in the first place. The power to do something like that is your local government. Your mayor or your governor can, in the interest of public health, for the safety of all of his citizens, require people to stay home. That is true. And they use it. The CDC has a law that allows it to say, like, for the public good. Through much smaller droplets that hang in the air longer. Cough, cough, do what you feel is best for you. Local governments have been trying to force. But I think the local governments have that power. It's for the general good. They're trying to protect the people in their citizenry who are at risk. Like, I know someone who is expecting a baby, and she is taking all precautions because she does not want to be exposed to anybody. And if people are walking around with their masks off and just doing what they do and these spikes happen, like, it endangers her. They don't even know how it affects pregnant people. They don't know. And if you think about the Zika and those babies with a microencephaly, it's scary. It is a very scary thing. But you elected them. Like, your mayor and your governor are people that you all elected. So if you're not happy with them, then vote them out next time. The news lady named Kale had a guest today saying 9 to 12 feet separation now. I would go with that. Like, the governor here put out mandates. That is why he needs to be replaced. Right? Washington State governor is forcing mask uses. I'm taking more precautions than I'm being told to. And Washington State had a pretty good outbreak, right? But look, I mean, I don't want to get into politics. I like our governor so far. Masks can do harm to you and inhibit you fighting an infection. All right, you guys, I've been talking an hour and a half. That's enough. I've got to go make dinner. I just kind of wanted to see where you guys head at. I don't want to, I'm not trying to inflame anybody. You know what I'm saying? When I talk about what I think about what's upcoming, I'm not trying to get people all excited or worked up. We are under enough stress as it is now. My goal is to get us as the most factual education so we can make smart decisions about what's coming up, to be ready for things. But the last thing I want to do is get you guys blood pressure going up or your stress level going up. I don't. I really want everyone to be able to be calm and rational and go through whatever's coming without, stressing out completely. I was probably one of the patients here in Texas, scared my lungs up pretty good. But our governor needs to go because he's caving to the liberal big cities. Good night, Sister Kate. Enjoy dinner with Pastor. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay free. Shalom. Have a great, peaceful night. Thank you. And y'all, stay in your faith, too. You got to trust in Yah. You got to stick with his word. You don't want to break his word because that's bad. And I think he will see us through this. I think he will help us to see a direction that we need to go in. If we need to go in a direction, I think he will help us be careful. You want to be hand in hand with him because he's, the Holy Spirit will talk to you and help you make important decisions. All right. Shalom. Shalom. Good night, 69. I'm not stressed at all. I know who God is and what he's capable of. Hallelujah. Exorcist Kate, I learned a lot from you. Plus, you challenged me to think about things from all sides. And yes, the Lord is our main guide. Have a great evening, Christine. Always good to see you. Y'all's peace to you. And you too, Steve Wilson. I'm very worried about what's potentially coming. I just received a scriptures today. I hope you enjoy it. I really enjoyed it when I got mine. Praise the Father. Bless you all. That's right. Hallelujah. All right. Good night, y'all. Shalom.